What is actually going on in the From Season 4 Episode 10 trailer? Because after watching it multiple times, I'm convinced that everything we thought we knew about the bones, the bottle tree, and the man in yellow might be completely wrong. And I think the show is about to pull the rug out from under us in the most brutal way possible. There is a lot to get into here, so before we dive in, if you're new to the channel and you love breaking down shows like From, hit that subscribe button right now because this is exactly the kind of content we do here every single week. All right, let's get into it. So heading into this finale, the situation that Jade and Tabitha find themselves in could not be more precarious. At the end of Episode 9, they're deep inside the caves, they're going after the bones. And they've essentially put the entire town in a position where things are either going to break wide open in the best possible way, or the suffering that the man in yellow promised is about to arrive in a way that nobody is going to be ready for. And with the trailer for Episode 10 now out, I genuinely believe that the show is setting up something we have never seen before. The scale of what's coming in this finale looks completely different from anything this series has delivered so far. So let's break it all down piece by piece. The very first thing that stood out to me the moment the trailer started was the sky. The red lightning cutting through the air above the town is giving off an energy that feels almost apocalyptic, and it immediately reminded me of the Stranger Things Season 4 finale in the best possible way. You've got that overwhelming sense that something enormous and unstoppable has been set in motion, and the atmosphere of the town itself is reacting to it. We see Boyd, Fatima, Ellis, and Randall all stepping out of a building together and looking up at what's happening above them. But what immediately caught my eye was that Boyd has a bloodstain on his shirt. And here's the thing, that bloodstain is not visible in other parts of the trailer. That tells me that particular moment is happening later in the sequence of events. So whatever is going to lead to Boyd having blood on his shirt, it's not where the episode begins. It's where things end up after everything else has already gone sideways. And the more I think about it, the more I believe that the red lightning and the sky lighting up could genuinely be one of the closing images of the entire episode. Think about it from a storytelling perspective. If the show is heading into a fifth and final season, you want to end Season 4 on the kind of cliffhanger that makes people feel like the ground has shifted completely beneath them. The sky tearing itself apart above the town would do exactly that. It would leave audiences stunned going into the break before the final season arrives. Now, alongside those shots of Boyd and the others outside, we also get a glimpse of Julie, Ethan, and Donna stepping out of one of the houses and staring up at the sky. And then there's a line from Sophia that I think is one of the most important things said in the entire trailer. She says, and I'm paraphrasing here, that it gets very messy at the end because they're getting close to it. And that line was accompanied by a shot of the bones. Now, that's not a coincidence. The bones appearing right as Sophia is talking about things getting messy at the end tells you exactly what she means. The messiness she's describing, I believe, is the massacre, the feast, if you want to use the language that the show has already established, around the man in yellow and what he prepares for at the end of each cycle. The unimaginable suffering he warned Tabitha about when she was with him in that office space isn't some vague, distant threat anymore. It's right here. It's arriving. And the bones are the thing that's going to trigger it. Sophia calling at the end is also really telling. She's not speaking loosely. She's describing the end of the cycle, and everything that town has been building toward across the entire season is converging on this single episode. The cycle is reaching its conclusion, and the question is whether Jade and Tabitha are going to be able to do what they came down there to do before the walls close in around them completely. Speaking of which, one of the most intense moments in the trailer comes from inside the caves themselves. Jade says to Tabitha, "You need to finish this. You need to break the cycle and your children deserve to go home." And as those words are being spoken, we see monsters entering that section of the cave, and they are smiling. Not growling, not threatening in the way we usually see them, smiling. And that detail is what I keep coming back to, because at the end of Episode 9, one of the monsters told Jade and Tabitha that they really shouldn't be doing what they're doing. It initially sounded like a warning designed to stop them. But what if it wasn't a warning meant to protect them? What if it was actually the opposite? Here's the theory I've been sitting with since watching the trailer. What if the monsters actually want Jade and Tabitha to take the bones? What if that's exactly what the town is hoping for? The show has been building this entire arc around the idea that the town lies. It deceives the people trapped inside it. It creates false hope, false paths, false keys, all in service of causing the maximum amount of pain possible. So what if the bones are not the key to breaking the cycle at all? What if they're the trigger that starts the massacre? The man in yellow has seemed remarkably calm through all of this, and Sophia's line about lighting the match and watching it burn suggests that she has been playing everyone this entire time. Every game she's been running, Henry being convinced he needs to kill his son, Mariel being shown those horrifying visions of her soul being trapped there, Boyd seeing Abby everywhere he looks, Fatima beginning to transform into something monstrous, Clara being used as a puppet, Sarah being manipulated by the voices. All of it, every single thread. These are the matches, and now she's ready to light them all at once. Here's a theory of my own that I want to throw out there. What if the bones being removed from the chamber is actually the thing that ends the cycle, but not in the way any of the characters think it does? What if breaking the cycle doesn't mean escape? What if it means resetting? And the reset is the massacre, the feast, the suffering, and then the cycle begins again with a new group of people, and none of the current residents survive to see the other side of it? That would reframe everything that's happened this season in the darkest possible way, because it would mean that Jade and Tabitha getting the bones would actually be completing the cycle for the man in yellow rather than undoing it. Now, I want to talk about Jade specifically for a moment because I have a strong feeling about where his story goes in this finale. It's been established across the show that previous versions of Jade were killed by the residents of the town. That's the pattern that is repeated. But here's where I think the show might do something genuinely interesting with that pattern. What if the way to actually break that specific piece of the cycle isn't by Jade being killed again the same way, but by him choosing to sacrifice himself willingly for a different reason? Going into the caves when he was terrified to do so, committing fully to helping Tabitha get the bones out, being the one who stands between her and the monsters so she can get out. That would be a completely different kind of ending for his incarnation of the character. It wouldn't be murder driven by fear and mob mentality. It would be a choice. And if the cycle is about patterns repeating, then the way to disrupt a pattern is to introduce something that's never happened before. Jade dying not as a victim but as someone who chose to help could be exactly that disruption. I think this finale could genuinely be his last episode. Everything has been building toward him walking into that cave. It feels like a natural conclusion to his arc in the most heartbreaking possible way. Moving through the trailer, we then get Christy asking Boyd what happens next. And I think this question is coming from one of two specific scenarios. Either the bottle tree has been pulled out of the ground and it hasn't done what they hoped it would, meaning there's no exit opening up from the caves, or the tree is proving incredibly resistant and they're struggling to move it at all. The bottle tree has been treated as something sacred throughout this show. The boy in white told Victor repeatedly not to destroy it, and that instruction wasn't given carelessly. If pulling it out of the ground is what triggers the red lightning and the instability we see tearing across the town, then removing it might be the worst thing they could possibly do, even though it seemed like the right move going in. Boyd's response to Christy is that there is no plan B, and that line tells you everything you need to know about where he is mentally and emotionally at this point. He is past the point of calculated strategy. He's running on will alone, and if the tree can't be moved and the caves are becoming increasingly dangerous with Jade and Tabitha trapped inside, I think Boyd himself is going to go in after them. He can't afford another death on his watch. We've watched him carry the weight of everyone he's lost across this entire season, and another one would break him. He'd go into the caves himself before he'd stand outside and watch it happen. Then we get Ethan, and this moment hit differently for me. He's crying, he's screaming, and what he says is that everybody here is going to die. Now, a couple of episodes back, there was that incredibly subtle moment where Sophia waved at Ethan when she noticed him during Roger's burning. That moment felt loaded with meaning the first time, and now I think I understand what it was setting up. I believe Sophia has made contact with Ethan in some capacity, and she has shown him what's coming. She's shown him the massacre. She's shown him what the end of the cycle looks like when it arrives in full. And now he's seeing what Julie saw when she went on her own story-walking journey earlier in the season. He's been given a window into the nightmare that's approaching, and what he saw is that everyone around him is going to die. The parallels between Ethan and the young Victor are too strong for the show not to be playing into them deliberately, and this feels like the moment where that parallel pays off in the darkest possible way. After that, we get Acosta telling Boyd that they can't just give up, and Boyd challenging her with the question of how they move forward. What I find genuinely compelling about this exchange is who it's coming from. Acosta and Boyd have had their conflicts across these past 2 seasons. Their relationship has been complicated and frequently adversarial, so having her be the one who pushes him not to quit carries a weight that it simply wouldn't have if it came from someone he's always been close to. Sometimes the push you need is the one you didn't expect from someone you wouldn't have predicted. And I think that encouragement from her specifically might be what keeps Boyd moving when everything else is telling him to stop. Back in the caves, the trailer shows the monsters tearing down the tarpaulin sheet that Jade and Tabitha put up and placed a talisman on to keep them out. And one of the monsters says there's nowhere for you to hide, which confirms what a lot of people have been speculating, which is that the talismans simply don't function the same way inside the caves. They've been a line of defense in the town above ground, but underground, that protection doesn't hold. There are a couple of explanations for why this might be the case. Either the caves exist outside of whatever rules govern the talismans, or, and this is where it gets more interesting, the bottle tree being pulled from the ground has already started to unravel the protections that were in place. If the tree holds some kind of stabilizing function for the town's rules, removing it could mean that nothing works the way it used to. The talismans fail, the monsters become unconstrained, and the people who relied on those protections find themselves completely exposed. There's also a shot of Smiley moving through the town in the dead of the night, and almost immediately after we get a shot of Sophia in similar lighting. This is the moment I'm most intrigued by narratively. Is the show finally putting these two forces in the same space? Smiley and the man in yellow in the same scene would be an extraordinary escalation. We've seen them operate as separate threats across the entire run of the show, and if they're finally being brought together into direct interaction, it suggests that the finale is raising the stakes to a level we haven't seen before. Two different expressions of the town's malevolence coming together in one place at one time. And then Sophia's line lands, "Now I light the match and I watch it burn." That is not the language of someone who is worried about what Jade and Tabitha are doing in the caves. That is the language of someone who is completely in control and has been for the entire time. Which brings me back to the central question of this episode. Was the man in yellow ever actually afraid of what the residents were doing? Or has this whole thing been a performance? Every move that appeared to be a warning, the monsters telling Jade and Tabitha they shouldn't be doing that, the apparent nervousness from Sophia in previous episodes, was any of it real? Or has it all been part of steering them toward exactly the outcome she wants? We also get a quick shot of Victor still inside the holding cell, and he's banging on the door in a state of visible panic. The instability of the town, the red lightning, the ground shifting beneath everything. It's clearly affecting him too. And Victor's reaction to what's happening is something to pay close attention to, because he has more experience with the cycles of this place than anyone else alive. If he's afraid, that's a signal about the severity of what's unfolding. And there's also the threat of Henry, who we don't see in the trailer, but who we know has been wrestling with the idea that he needs to kill Victor in order to escape. I keep coming back to that blood on Boyd's shirt, and I genuinely can't rule out that it's Henry's blood. If Henry moves against Victor and Boyd tries to intervene, that confrontation could turn violent fast. What I'm predicting for the finale is this. The bottle tree gets pulled from the ground, and rather than opening an exit from the caves, it throws the balance of the entire town into chaos. The red lightning begins. The town destabilizes. The talismans fail, and Jade and Tabitha, deep in the caves with the bones in their possession or nearly there, realize that what they thought was the key to breaking the cycle was actually the final piece the man in yellow needed. The bones coming up from the chamber, combined with the bottle tree being destroyed, is what completes the cycle rather than ending it. And then the massacre begins. Jade, I think, is going to make a choice that no previous version of him has made. He's going to stay. He's going to hold back the monsters long enough for Tabitha to get out, even though it means he doesn't. It's the one thing the cycle hasn't seen before. It's the disruption that might change something, even if we don't find out what it changes until Season 5. Boyd ends up in the caves looking for them. That's where the blood comes from. Ethan's breakdown hits its peak after whatever Sophia showed him becomes visibly real in front of him. And the episode closes on that red lightning splitting open the sky above the town, with the people left standing looking up at it and having no idea what comes next. The finale honestly looks like it could be the episode that launches this show into a completely different conversation. If they stick the landing here, Season 5 is going to be one of the most anticipated final seasons of any show that's been on television in recent years. I cannot wait to see how it all unfolds. If you made it to the end of this breakdown, you already know you're exactly the kind of viewer this channel exists for. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, because we are going to be covering every detail of this finale and everything that comes after it as we head into the final season. Drop your own theories in the comments below because I genuinely want to know what you think is going to happen in that cave. And I'll see you right after the episode drops.